We are the She, writers and changemakers. Conceptualized by Brindarika Bose in 2018 and brought to fruition by the core team, She was formed with the aim to provide a creative platform for women's voices and their reflections from daily life. Even before the pandemic hit, the She members were working on this project, connecting virtually with one another all across the globe before it became a way of life. Thus, She is truly a virtual collaborative project. A first book was titled She Speaks. This book is a collection of short stories that offers a fresh perspective of the global Indian experience in the 21st century as seen through women's eyes. The stories speak of love, of sorrow, of anger, of desire, as well as hope. They give voice to the idea of displacement and the art of making anew in unfamiliar spaces. Our next release was titled She Celebrates. India is a land of festivals and celebrations. A wide variety of festivals celebrated in India is a true manifestation of its rich culture and tradition. Our book, She Celebrates, endeavors to capture this essence. Our third book, titled She Reflects, is a book of 43 flash fictions distributed across 3 sections, roughly based on the age of the protagonist. The stages in a river's journey has been used as a metaphor to capture the many facets of a woman's life from its beginning till the end. It is in the same year that we released a book of poetry titled Emotions in Rhythm, which explores a potpourri of emotions. Our poets talk about fleeting moments, impressions, and express themselves through rhythm of words. Last year we released She Shines, a book filled with tales of hope, resilience, and victory, some of which are inspired by true events. This book, intended to give voice to the voiceless, bring hidden narrations of happenings around us into limelight. And finally, this year we bring to you She Seeks, a collection of 14 short stories that delve into the complexities of human mind. The stories draw on themes of nostalgia and mystery to highlight how the human mind is constantly exploring, investigating, and searching for answers to myriad questions. Team She Writers would like to thank all its readers from the bottom of our hearts for supporting our endeavor, Books for a Cause. These are some of the social causes and charitable institutions that are supported from the profit proceeds. When you buy our books, you'll join our creative movement and help make a difference. Follow us for updates and to encourage and support in this endeavor. Thank you and happy Women's Day.
Iska Ghosh, and I'll be reading a story which was published in this book, She Reflects. So She Reflects is a compilation of flash fiction, so mine is a short one. Ekalavya Redux. My name is Mrs. Rita D'Souza. I retired recently from my job as an English teacher at New Horizons School, where I worked for the past 30 years. Today, I'm going to tell you the story of the most apt pupil of my teaching career. I had been assigned the responsibility of teaching English to class 6A that year. The academic year had just started when something unusual attracted my attention. While correcting homework one day, I came across an essay written in a laborious scrawl and littered with misspelled words. I glanced at the name on the cover of the brand new notebook. Suhasina, it said, and I made a mental note to speak to the student. The next day, while in class, I asked for Suhas Sinha. There is no one by that name in our class, miss, informed one of the bright-eyed youngsters. "Oh, this student must be in some other section then," I said aloud and promptly forgot about it. Next week, Suhas Sinha's homework notebook appeared again. Amidst the stack of Class 6A notebooks, the same thing happened the week thereafter. I asked my colleagues in the staff room about Suhas Sinha, but my search drew a blank. Further inquiries revealed that there was no student called Suhas Sinha in the entire school. In the meantime, however, Suhas Sinha's homework notebook continued to show up in the pile with clockwork regularity. My initial impression of a sloppy student began to change as I noticed improvements. The handwriting became more legible. There were fewer misspelled words, and the sentences meandered lesser with time. Here was a student who was clearly making an effort. I decided that here was an opportunity to impress upon young minds the value of dogged determination. Therefore, I began to share with my class the path of progress of the invisible classmate Suhas Sinha. They were intrigued by the mysterious student as much as I was. "Did Suhas Sinha get all the answers right, Mrs. D'Souza?" inquired someone. "Please read Suhas Sinha's essay on my favorite author," asked another, and I obliged. As the year wore on, Suhas Sinha silently became an integral part of Class 6A. Together we plumbed the depths of 20,000 leagues under the sea. Were enthralled by the adventures of Tom Sawyer and Jim Corbett, teased out metaphors and similes while reading Wordsworth's "I Wandered as Lonely as a Cloud," and even wrote a play based on the labors of Hercules. Suhas Sinha not only kept pace, but flourished as a student, and I was happy to be the mentor. Strangely enough, I had developed such a bond with Suhas Sinha that I almost forgot that this student was not physically present in the classroom. The final school term was nearing its end, and the workload had intensified. I was busier than usual, guiding my class with the end-of-year projects and conducting revisions before the looming final exams. Then something unthinkable happened. Suhas Sinha failed to turn in the homework for 2 consecutive weeks. At about the same time, I noticed that the brightest and the most active student in the class was looking rather despondent. I decided to find out. "What's the matter, Ravi? You look sad," I asked. "His grandma is in the hospital," chimed in his best friend, Zaid. But then, in a few days, Ravi perked up and returned to his normal self. It was the last week of school and I had assigned the final essay topic. Class 6A students were asked to write about a character that they identified with the most, and Suhas Sinha's brown paper covered notebook reappeared in the pile of corrections. Suhas Sinha had written on Eklavya, the character from Mahabharata, a low-caste boy who surreptitiously learns from the guru of the royal Pandava and Kaurava princes and pays a heavy price for it. As I read the essay, suddenly everything became crystal clear to me. The evidence was right under my nose, and I berated myself for having missed it earlier. Ravi Datta intellectual heist of recent times. I recalled a diminutive woman with snowy hair who would accost me at the school gates on my way out. There were always questions and requests for me. Ravi had not quite understood the difference between singular and collective nouns. Could I explain it to him again? What did the Gaelic words in the poem on King Arthur mean? Or could I suggest titles of books that Ravi could read during summer holidays? The appearance and disappearance of books was easy to explain. Ravi Datta was the monitor of 6A and hence responsible for the collection and distribution of daily homework. Slipping in a notebook or quietly removing it was not a difficult task. Now confronted with all the telltale clues, I felt compelled to take action. The culmination of the school year was the grand prize distribution ceremony. The day arrived and the auditorium was brimming with students and parents. Names were being announced for different subjects and students trooped up to the podium to shake hands with the headmaster and collect their prize. At the very end of the ceremony, the headmaster made an announcement. This year, we are introducing a special category. It's called the Most Improved Student of the Year Award. And I'm happy to announce that its first recipient is Mrs. Suhasini Datta. There was a collective gasp from the audience as the grandmother of Ravi Datta ascended the steps to receive her prize. After the auditorium emptied, I saw Mrs. Suhasini Datta making her way towards me. Her eyes twinkled behind her gold-rimmed glasses. She took my hand and said, "Thank you for teaching me English, Mrs. D'Souza." "I was honored to have a student like you," I said. I still had an unanswered question. "Your name is Suhasini Datta. Who then is Suhasina?" I queried. Mrs. Datta replied sheepishly, "Sinha is my maiden name. I studied till class 8, after which I was married off. I had a great desire to learn English, but my education was incomplete. I had made up my mind that I was going to learn English somehow. And then I started reading my grandson's school texts and doing the homework." Her voice trailed. I looked at her with newfound respect. "Learning has no age, Mrs. Datta. You were a model student." Seeing the time-caressed face of this older woman break into a warm smile, I felt an immense sense of gratification sweep over me. Thank you. Today, I'm here as the representative of this She Writers group, along with Debolina Mukherjee. I would like to tell you a little bit about how the She Writers group came into existence and what we do. So we are a collaborative platform of women authors from around the world. So we get together every year virtually to write a book of short stories. And the protagonist in all of our short stories are women. Each year we pick a theme. So the first book came out in 2019, She Speaks. That book was about raising women's voices. The second book, She Celebrates, has stories against the backdrop of Indian festivals. Then came She Reflects. It's a collection of flash fiction, and we compare a woman's life to the stages in the life of a river, especially the Ganga. So we have included stories where the protagonist is a little girl, and we also have stories where the protagonist is a senior person, an elderly person. Our fourth book that came out on International Women's Day, which is March 8th, was called She Shines. And we thought that it was time to shine a light on women who are at the margins. So we have stories. My story, Rosita's birthday, is about a single woman who's raising a child in New York, in one of the most deprived and poverty-stricken parts of New York, which is Bronx. There's a story about a girl who is a special needs person. We have highlighted the plight of refugees. The next book was She Seeks, and Debolina has contributed a story in there. And the theme we chose for that book was nostalgia and mystery. So our effort throughout has been to highlight women's needs, their aspirations, and their vulnerabilities. So a little bit about how this group came about. So we are authors. We are spread across many countries around the world. We have authors in New Zealand, Australia, Singapore, Indonesia, India, of course, the UAE, Switzerland, Netherlands, and the United States. We are women of Indian origin. The fact that they reside in other parts of the world helps us to bring stories with a local flavor. We realized quickly enough that women's issues are universal. They kind of face the same obstacles, the same impediments everywhere, despite cultural differences. We have gradually grown as an organization. We started off with a group of 15 authors. Now we are 44 authors around the world. We have had some challenges. Okay, so we encountered a rogue publisher who ran away with our royalties in the middle of the pandemic. Yes, that happened. But that didn't deter us. We, thanks to Brindarika Bose, who is one of the main initiators and spirits behind the She group of writers, she decided that she was going to launch her own publishing platform. So today we have our own publishing platform called the Bose Creative Publishers. We have published, of course, the She series of books, but we have also published other books. So, for example, there is a travelogue. We have it there. It's called Wanderlust, and men and women have contributed to that book. We have a book of poetry. We have a memoir written by Professor Gandobrata Bhattacharya. The book is called In Search of Sherpur. The book chronicles his childhood in undivided India, East Pakistan, his migration to Calcutta, and then eventually his move abroad. That book is, it's funny, it's irreverent, it's very, very humane, and it's a lovely, lovely memoir. It's going to make you laugh and cry at the same time. We have a book called The Indian Grandma's Secret Recipes. We all love, we have fond memories of how our grandmas cooked. So these ladies who contributed to this book are in their 80s. They don't have access to social media, so we felt that, okay, this is the time to give them a platform. So we got a book published called Indian Grandma's Secret Recipes. So we have that book on the table outside. So our endeavors has been to promote creativity, and in our case, it is writing. We realized that our passions, our interests and hobbies get sidelined as we get busy with our professional lives and family responsibilities. We probably write on the margins of books, on scraps of paper, and it's put away somewhere, and it never sees the light of day. So we thought, why not kind of get together and make something out of this? So our goal is to encourage creativity and channelize that creativity for a social cause. Many of the authors in a group, we are not professional writers. I have to kind of make that clear right away. We come from different professional backgrounds. We are advertising executives like Sujata here, journalists, homemakers, artists, academics, scientists. So it is a mixed group. So we thought, let's encourage creativity and channelize our creative passions towards a social cause. So every book that we have sold so far, the profits have gone to an organization which works for women and children. So we have donated through a portal called India Gives. We have donated to organizations in India. We have donated to the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. We have donated to UNICEF. Then this year we started thinking that why not hold events like this and donate to a local charity, a local organization. So today, all the books that we are going to be selling today, the profits are going to an organization called Vimukti Vidya Samaste. They are an organization, they operate in Chitradurga and in other districts in Karnataka. And they work for low-income women, they work for child laborers, they work for migrant communities. So every book you buy today, it's going to be channelized to them. The profits are going to be donated to them. We are getting noticed. So we have presented our work at the Indian Embassy in Switzerland, at the High Commission in Australia. Our books have been digitally archived in the National Library of Switzerland. Our book has also been catalogued in the local libraries in the United States. We are fortunate enough to receive support from community members like you. So for instance, in Switzerland this year, the local libraries provided us with the venue to tell our story and help sell our books, and at the same time they donated a certain amount towards our social causes. This year, one of my favorite social causes, if that's how we want to put it, was a little playground for children in a school in Himachal Pradesh. So these children come from obviously low-income backgrounds, and they have never played in a playground. So we made a contribution. Of course, we don't have the resources to underwrite the whole thing, but we made a contribution. They sent us a video, and it really warmed our hearts to see that. So today we are here. We are going to. Debolina is going to read her story, and I'm going to read a short story from the book She Reflects. And of course, we are a community, and we would like to hear your stories as well. We are going to have a Q&A session, and please tell us about the remarkable women that you have known in your life. So we have organized these sessions in the US and elsewhere, and everybody has a story to tell us. And we are here to learn and to hear from you. So thank you again for coming and joining us today. Debolina, could you please? So the floor is yours. Any questions for us about the process, about the story, anything? trying to ask a question? No, you are not. Okay, hi. Yeah, Nirmala. Okay. So, the other day I came across this little quote from Hilary Mantel. She's written this Cromwell trilogy. So she said that all novels, all stories at the end are autobiographical. So I live in the US, and in that community there's a family that I know well thanks to the grandmother who would come every year. So she's a Gujarati lady, and her son is married to an American. And so she would come, she came and she kind of became my friend. She befriended me. She's a very, very social person. And she did not know English. And in a household where the daughter-in-law was American, so I guess it was kind of an impediment. So she had this great desire to learn English. And she came up to me one day and she said, "Ista, tum mujhe English sikhaoge?" I said, "Haan auntie, sikhaungi." And so she came with her books and so on, and we made an effort. We did make an effort. She picked up some English, but ultimately, again, this was a short trip. She had to return to India. So obviously, she was very much like the character in my book, married off early, and she had been looking after her family all her life, and she had this desire to learn English, and she wanted to learn English when she was in her late 60s, 70s. So Auntie was the inspiration for my character. Yes. Why don't you tell us about all the remarkable women that you know? Anybody would like to share a story that kind of that's sparked by our readings?
The girls and ladies and my friends, everybody's a friend. Anybody has a question, please feel free to ask. Anybody, any kind of question regarding the story or regarding our writing process, anything, we are here.
I'm going to go deep into it.
To me,
So, famously, Alison wrote a book of short stories called Men Without Women.
yeah.
Considered writing a series called Women Without Men.
Your brother, yes. Women without men. Yeah, this is a question that I've been asked very often when I spoke of she and my writings also. Are you talking about feminism? That was the first question. So I had to clarify to everybody. First thing is, feminism is not male bashing. We would be nowhere without the men in our lives. I mean, father, husband, brother, children, etc. So women without men, I don't think I would be able to write a story on that. Because it is, at the end of it, we are not fighting to prove that we are better than men or men are inferior to us. We are saying we are women and we also have our place in the world. So if you look at it, one of the first books on feminism was The Second Sex. We are no longer the second sex. We are now women, she. So like I said right at the beginning, she stands for us. So without men we'd be nothing. So I at least would not contribute to a book where you would say women without men. I couldn't. Thank you.
Well said. Well said.
She is about us. A woman who is called a wonder. But the woman herself is often left wondering about her entity, her place in the scheme of things. And in She Seeks, where I have my story, we are looking at the crux of the matter. Of course, one can never reach the crux of the matter, but a woman who's trying to find answers through mystery. Mystery is not always detectives, but asking questions of yourself, and also nostalgia, when we go back to the past to see if we can find a few answers. So my story, and She Seeks, the girl with mismatched rubber bands, is one that is related to nostalgia and maybe a little bit of mystery also. The girl with mismatched rubber bands. I was swamped, busy being what I was told I ought to be. I was frantic for challenges, something new to prove myself. I had decided to be the doer, not the dreamer that I had been long ago. I was occupied with living that I forgot to live. Not that it mattered or that I cared. I didn't know any other way. We were all doing this, futility wrapped in glossy paper for meaningless purposes. I was busy without business. I had routines, regimen, schedules, saccharine smiles, and dagger politeness. I counted steps on my health app and got my 5,000. I mastered my calories on the app and chewed up my spirit. I walked with a set rhythm. I watched my steps. The clouds were asymmetrical and billowing with joyous abandon somewhere up in the sky. I glanced at the clouds in passing. They looked like wisps of wishing flowers that I used to gather and wish upon fervently very long ago. At my age, I was dressed just as I ought to, in muted maroons and powder pastels. Nothing extravagant, but everything very expensive. I was dressed for my role play, but not my life. There was war paint and costly camouflage, my wrinkles and my grays. Not that there were too many, but I could not allow even one. My pearls were perfectly matched. My solitaires were hints of great depths and carats. Somewhere around me, the seasons changed. Some flowers bloomed, some drooped, some withered, and then all burst into life again. I suddenly spotted a hibiscus flower in the garden. It was uninhibitedly bold, red, flamboyant, and had a long trailing tendril flecked with pollen, color, and freedom. Suddenly I ruffled my smooth hairdo, perfect trim, no tendrils or curls peeping out. But that hibiscus made me look for a straight curl in my strict stresses. Life is not a roller coaster. I wouldn't allow my life to do a twirl or a jig. I had my timetable and my clocks in sync with my thoughts. Duty and niceties. I did both very well. When the day ended, the night sky stretched at my window. I closed the curtains and turned on the bright lights. The evening was now clear and orderly with the quiet hum of routine. Outside, the night sky seemed to be waiting patiently. For what? I never thought about it. But some nights, when the day's work was done, I did draw back those curtains. The stars winked at me. They knew. What? The moon seemed so lazily purposeful. The darkness seemed so contented. I had done my day's duty, yet I felt something was finished, not completed. Why was there no sense of new beginnings? Just the exhaustion of an ending. What foolish meanderings were these? I got ready for the days. Sometimes I wondered why I looked at the day like a battlefront. My purposeful strides to do the 5,000 steps, no strolling, no dawdling, and no looking at clouds and the sights around. Head down, app on, minding the potholes. I walked on. And then I saw her. She was standing on the pavement watching me. She stood still, only the way a child could stand when they wanted to. A little girl of about 8 years, hair done in 2 plaits, with bits of hair that stuck out. There were rubber bands in her hair, the kind we used to wear as kids. Her braids were done in 1 green and 1 red rubber band. She was looking at me intently and yet with a faraway gaze. It was a busy day. I had a full day's planner to execute, a lot of expectations to live up to. I did the requisite steps, burnt the calories. Today, for some reason, I slowed down and turned back to look at the little girl. She waved. Or did she beckon? But I hurried home. The day hummed on the well-oiled hinges of subtleties and restrained reactions. When evening came, I turned my tired steps homeward without any sense of homecoming. There were still so many roles left to play, so much pristine presentation to be made.
Those who do have the urge to write at least. And when they get an opportunity like this, I think that's a really wonderful move. So congratulations and
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations most of all to you.
Thank you.